My daughter calls me at the same time every night and asks, "Mom, are you alone?" If I say yes, she hangs up. If I say no, she demands to know who's with me. Last night, I lied and said I was alone. I never imagined that lie would save my life. The phone rang at exactly 10:31 p.m., just as it had every night for the past 4 months. I was sitting in my late husband's blue rocking chair by the window, the one that looks out over the Vineyard rows running down the slope to Keuka Lake in the Finger Lakes. This time of year, the vines were bare, thin, knuckled canes clinging to the trellis like bony fingers reaching toward a November sky. I turned Tom's reading glasses over in my hands, wondering why, 2 years later, I still kept them on the side table. "Hello, Sabrina," I said, not bothering with caller ID. My daughter's punctuality bordered on obsessive. "Mom," her voice came tight, controlled, "are you alone?" The question. Always the same question. I looked around the living room. The faded floral sofa Tom and I bought 30 years ago, the regulator wall clock ticking steady on the paneled wall, the wedding photo on the mantel where we both looked impossibly young. The lake house felt enormous in its emptiness, every room echoing with the absence of the man who once filled them with his laugh, his presence, his life. "Yes," I said. "I'm alone." The line went dead. I stared at the phone, listening to the silence that followed. This was new. Usually when I said yes, Sabrina launched into a 15-minute lecture about proper security, about locking doors, about the dangers of rural isolation for a woman my age. She'd inherited her father's concern, but none of his warmth. Tonight, just silence, then a disconnected call. I set the phone down, my hand trembling slightly. At 64, I've learned to trust my instincts, and right now they were screaming that something was wrong. The house settled into its familiar creaks. I'd lived here 40 years, raised Sabrina within these walls, laid my husband out in the front parlor. I knew every sound, every draft, every quirk, which is why I noticed immediately when the kitchen doorknob turned. I'd locked it. I always lock it after dinner. My breath caught. I stayed perfectly still in the rocking chair, partly hidden from the kitchen, by the wide doorway. Through the gap, a shadow slid across the mudroom glass. Someone was trying to get in. My mind raced. The phone was on the side table, but the nearest deputy would be 20 minutes away on a good night out here by the lake. The gun Tom kept was locked in the bedroom safe, and I never learned the combination. He always meant to show me, and there was always tomorrow until there wasn't. The handle stopped. Silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Then footsteps retreated over the gravel path. I waited 5 full minutes before I moved, my heart hammering against my ribs. I crept to the kitchen window and peeked through the curtain. Nothing. Just darkness and the faint spill of the security light by the equipment shed. But on the kitchen table sat something that hadn't been there before, a cream envelope with a watermark. The wax seal was already cracked. It lay exactly in the center of the table. My hands shook as I stepped closer. Heavy stock. The kind used for formal invitations. No name, no address, no markings at all. I should have called the police. That's what a sensible woman would do. But something stopped me. Maybe 40 years of self-reliance on a working vineyard. Or maybe the memory of Sabrina's voice, its strange urgency, asking, "Are you alone?" I opened the envelope. Inside was a single photograph, old and slightly glossy like a 35mm print. It showed this house, my house, but at least 30 years ago. 4 people stood on the porch. Tom, young and steady in work clothes. Me, barely 30, holding baby Sabrina. And 2 people I didn't know. A tall, dark-haired man, a woman with a severe expression. On the back, in handwriting I didn't recognize, Consortium, 1991. Some debts don't expire. My mouth went dry. 1991. The year we took over this vineyard. The year Tom came home with cash for the down payment, saying a distant relative had died and left him an inheritance. I never questioned it. We were scraping by, working 3 jobs between us, dreaming of land of our own. The money felt like a miracle. But Tom was an only child. His parents were only children, too. He didn't have a distant relative. I turned the photo over again, studying the strangers' faces. The man's hand rested on Tom's shoulder in a way that felt possessive. The woman looked at me with something close to contempt. Who were they? And why would someone leave this photograph here now, 2 years after Tom's death? The phone rang again. I nearly dropped the photograph. This time, it wasn't Sabrina. The number was blocked. Hello? My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Mrs. Marion Clark. A man's voice. Light. Educated. A hint of Manhattan in it. Yes. This is Avery Lang. I'm an attorney. I'm sorry to call so late, but I've been trying to reach you for some time. Your daughter has been blocking my calls. My grip tightened on the phone. What are you talking about? I represent the estate of Harold and Elaine Kincaid. They died 7 months ago in a car accident in the Catskills. You're named in their will, Mrs. Clark. In fact, quite prominently. The room tilted. I sank into the nearest chair. I don't know anyone by those names. Perhaps not by name, Mr. Lang said carefully. But I believe you knew them 33 years ago when you and your late husband took over the Vineyard. I looked down at the photo in my hand, the severe woman, the dark-haired man with his possessive hand on Tom's shoulder. What do they want? I whispered. Want? Mrs. Clark, they're dead, but they left you something. Something your daughter is very eager to prevent you from receiving. Tell me, has she been calling you every night asking, Mom, are you alone? My blood went cold. How do you know that? Because she has been to my office 3 times attempting to obtain power of attorney over your affairs. She claims you're experiencing cognitive decline, that you're not competent to manage on your own. She's been quite insistent. The words landed like blows. Sabrina, my daughter, trying to have me declared incompetent. That's absurd, I said, though my voice shook. I'm perfectly capable. I know you are. That's why I needed to reach you directly. Mrs. Clark, the Kincaids left you a document, a contract your husband signed in 1991, and a letter explaining everything. But I need to hand them to you in person before your daughter realizes we've made contact. What kind of contract? The kind that could make you a very wealthy woman, and the kind that explains why someone might want to keep you isolated and confused, Mrs. Clark. Are you truly alone in that house? I thought of the envelope on the table, the hand that tested the doorknob. I don't know anymore, I said honestly. Listen to me carefully. Don't tell anyone about this call. Not your daughter. No one. I'm driving up from Manhattan now. I can be there before 1:00 a.m. Can you stay awake? Can you stay safe? I looked around the kitchen, the room where I'd made breakfast for 40 years, suddenly unfamiliar, thick with shadow and secrets. Mrs. Clark, Lang's voice pressed. Are you still there? I'm here, I said. I'll be waiting. Keep your doors locked. If anyone shows up before I do, even your daughter, do not let them in. Do you understand? Yes. Good. I'll see you soon. He hung up. I sat in the kitchen a long time, staring at the photograph. Consortium, 1991. Some debts don't expire. Tom had lied to me. Sabrina was trying to declare me incompetent. Someone had just tried to get into my house. The regulator clock in the living room chimed 11. I had 2 hours before Mr. Lang arrived. 2 hours to understand what I was facing, to decide whether I could trust him, to protect myself from whatever was coming. I stood and went to Tom's study. His desk was exactly as he'd left it, neat, orderly, almost obsessively so. In the 3rd drawer down, tucked beneath a stack of old farm equipment manuals, I found another envelope. Same heavy stock, clean, unmarked surface. Inside was a thin steel key plate, engraved, and a slip of paper in Tom's handwriting. Marion, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry for everything. This card opens box number 319 at Empire Trust in Rochester. Go alone. Tell no one, especially Sabrina. She doesn't understand. She can't. Some secrets are meant to protect, not harm. I love you. Always. T. My hands trembled as I held the note. Tom had known something, and he had left me a way to find the truth. The phone rang again. Sabrina, right on schedule for her second attempt. This time when she asked, "Mom, are you alone?" I made a decision that changed everything. "No," I lied. "A deputy just stopped by. He's still here checking the property. Thought he saw someone between the vine rows." The silence on her end lasted longer. When Sabrina spoke again, her voice was different, harder, colder. "Good, Mom. That's good. You stay safe tonight. I'll come by first thing in the morning. We need to talk." "About what?" "About the future. About what's best for you. Sleep well, Mom." She hung up before I could answer. "Morning," she'd said, like a threat. I had 90 minutes before Mr. Lang arrived. 90 minutes to search a house holding 40 years of life for answers my husband had deliberately hidden. In the filing cabinet, I found the deed. Tom had handled everything. Under the lamp, a line made my stomach knot. The property hadn't been purchased outright in 1991. It had been transferred. Prior owners, Harold and Elaine Kincaid. We hadn't bought this vineyard. We'd been given it. In the inside pocket of Tom's vest, I found an old business card. Kincaid and Associates, private investment. The ink had bled, but the name was still clear. Headlights swept across the bedroom wall. I froze. It was only 12:22. Too early for Mr. Lang. A dark SUV turned into my driveway, engine idling. Sabrina stepped out from the driver's seat. She was supposed to come in the morning. I heard a key turn downstairs. The front door opened. "Mom?" Sabrina called. "Mom, I know you're here. Your car's in the drive." "Mom, I just spoke to Sheriff Miguel Ortiz. There was no deputy sent out tonight. You lied to me." Her footsteps moved through the first floor. "You're confused. That lawyer who called you, he's trying to scam you." She stood at the base of the stairs. "Dad wanted me to take care of you. Don't drag your father into this," I thought, anger flaring. Sabrina's footsteps started up. Heavy, deliberate. I quietly slid the bedroom bolt. "Mom!" Her voice was sharp now, right outside the door. "Why is this locked? Are you in there?" "I'm fine, Sabrina. Go home. Open the door." "No." Her tone shifted, softer, coaxing. "Mom, I love you. Everything I'm doing is because I love you. But you're not thinking clearly. I've spoken to some excellent care facilities. I'm 64, and I still outwork men half my age. I don't need a facility." Through the door, I heard paper rustle. "Found something interesting," Sabrina said, a new edge in her voice. "A steel card and a note from Dad about a safe deposit box in Rochester, box number 319. Tell no one, especially Sabrina." She laughed, without humor. "Pretty clear, isn't it? You found it tonight, right? That's what this is about?" "That's private," I said. "Private, Mom? I think tomorrow morning you and I are taking a drive to Rochester. We'll open that box. Then we'll have a serious conversation about your future." "I'm not going anywhere with you." "Yes, you are," Sabrina said, voice cold and final. "Because if you don't, tomorrow afternoon I'll be in court with 3 physicians who've reviewed your cognitive decline records. By tomorrow night, I'll have emergency guardianship, and you won't have a choice about anything." She'd planned this. She'd been building a case. "I need a minute," I said, "to get dressed. I'm in my nightgown. You have 2 minutes." I eased the window open. Below, the pergola was thick with wisteria. I swung one leg over the sill. "Time's up, Mom." The doorknob rattled. The door burst open just as I lowered myself onto the wisteria-covered pergola. "Mom, stop! You're going to hurt yourself!" The lattice groaned and complained, but it held. The moment my feet hit the ground, the top of the pergola tore away from the clapboard with a dry crack like a gunshot. I stumbled backward, then got up and ran for the vineyard, slipping into the dark between the bare trellis rows. "Mom," Sabrina was on the phone now. "Yeah, it's me. She's running. She found the letter about the box. Move up the timeline." I ran through the dark. My phone. I'd left it in the house. Another set of headlights swung in. A sedan. A man stepped out, tall, polished, Cole Harrington, Sabrina's husband. He walked straight into my house like it belonged to him. They spoke briefly, and their body language said the rest. They were strategizing. More headlights. A silver Mercedes, too elegant for this lakeshore road. Avery Lang stepped out with a leather briefcase. He looked at Sabrina and Cole on the porch, and his face hardened. He was early. I watched the confrontation in pantomime. Lang showed identification. Then he handed Sabrina a document, said something sharp, and returned to his car, pulling over near the drive and cutting the engine. Waiting. Sabrina and Cole went back inside. Lights came on in every room. They were hunting me. The landline rang inside, once, twice, 3 times, and stopped. Moments later, every light in the house went out. Power cut. In the dark, I heard Cole shout. Flashlights swept across the windows. My chance. I ran, crossed the open ground, reached Lang's Mercedes, yanked the passenger door, and threw myself in. "Drive!" I gasped. "Drive now!" Lang didn't hesitate. The engine roared and we shot backward down the drive. In the mirror, I saw Sabrina sprinting after us, her face twisted with anger. "Mrs. Clark," Lang said calmly, as if ferrying women in nightgowns was his night job. "There's a blanket in the back." I pulled it around my shoulders. "Thank you. That was my daughter and her husband. They're planning to file for guardianship tomorrow." Lang nodded, voice low. "She called my office this afternoon. Threatened to sue if I contacted you. Claimed you're susceptible to fraud due to cognitive decline." He glanced over. "You just climbed down from a 2nd-story window and outran 2 people 30 years younger. I'd say your capacity is intact." "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe. Somewhere we can talk." He handed me his phone. "First, call Sheriff Miguel Ortiz. Report an unlawful entry. Your daughter used a key without consent and you felt threatened. That's accurate, isn't it?" "She has a key. I gave it to her." "Did you give permission to use it tonight? To trap you in your bedroom? To search your house?" I took the phone. "No." "Then it's trespass at minimum. Make the call." After I hung up, Lang drove in silence for a few minutes. Then he pulled into a 24-hour diner by the lake. "Coffee," he said, "and a conversation indoors where there are witnesses and cameras." Sensible. I was beginning to trust his judgment. He opened the briefcase and slid out a thick folder. "Before I show you these," he said, "I need to explain something. Harold and Elaine Kincaid died 7 months ago. Their car went off a bridge in a storm in the Catskills. Police called it an accident. I don't think it was." My coffee cup stopped halfway. "You think they were murdered?" "I think they knew something dangerous. And I think your husband knew it too." He pushed a document across. "This is Harold Kincaid's statement to me, recorded 2 weeks before he died." My hands shook as I read. "My name is Harold Kincaid. In 1991, I was a senior partner in a private investment firm. We did venture capital, but we also handled irregular transactions, funds that needed to stay off the radar. Thomas Clark worked for me as a senior accountant. In the spring of 1991, Thomas discovered I was laundering money for a network run by Victor Stanton, about $4.2 million over 2 years, or 2. He brought me proof. Instead of going to the police, he proposed a deal. He wanted out. In exchange for his silence, I would give him my Finger Lakes lakeside vineyard and enough cash to operate for 5 years. He would take the evidence and hide it as a life insurance policy. I've lived 34 years afraid, and now they've found us. If you're reading this, Marion, I'm dead, and Thomas is dead. That's no coincidence. The evidence Thomas took, it's still out there. He told me he hid it on his land, somewhere you'd only find if you had to." I read slowly, each line dry as dust. "You must find it, because you're next. Your daughter, Sabrina, doesn't know the whole story. She knows enough to be dangerous. Someone has been manipulating her, Stanton or his people, whispering about a dirty legacy. She believes protecting herself means removing you. Trust no one. Find the evidence. And for God's sake, stay alive. H. Kincaid." I looked up. "Tom was killed," I whispered. "I believe so," Lang said. The diagnosis was real, but the progression looks accelerated. Why after 34 years? Because someone started tracing the old money. They hit Kincaid's name, then Thomas Clark, the accountant who disappeared with evidence that could still destroy them. He knew they were close, I said, so he left me a path. And Sabrina, Lang exhaled. She's working for them, unwittingly, but yes. If she gets guardianship tomorrow, the house will be searched top to bottom. Thomas's originals will be destroyed, and you... I'll be placed in a facility, I finished, where no one will believe a word I say. Yes. The diner's normalcy, the hum of lights, the spoon on china, felt surreal. What's in the box? I asked. I'm not certain. My bet is a map, instructions. The first breadcrumb to the originals. He slid another document over. Kincaid's will. They left you $5.5 million and a lakeside cabin in the Catskills. Condition, you only receive it after turning the originals over to the FBI. I stared at the number. It felt like hush money and a way out. And this, Lang said, pushing a photograph across. A man in his 50s, silver hair, immaculate suit. Do you recognize him? I hesitated. No. Victor Stanton, Kincaid's partner in the laundering operation, now the public face of a logistics and medical equipment chain, clean on paper, and he's been meeting with your daughter regularly this past year. The pieces locked with a chill. The 1031 calls, Sabrina's fixation on safety, Cole's sudden concern for what's best for you. They'd been preparing the ground. How do you know all this? I asked. Kincaid hired a private investigator before he died. That PI watched both families. Photos, audio, surveillance logs. He tapped the folder. It's not enough to take Stanton down. Only Thomas's originals will do it. I looked at the stack. Proof of a betrayal I didn't want to believe. We need Boxma 3 Weinheim, I said, tonight. The bank doesn't open until 9. Then we wait, but not here. Stanton knows about the box. Sabrina will tell him. They'll stake out the door. I planned for that. He dialed. Olivia? Avery. I need a favor. Yes, tonight. Empire Trust, Rochester, Box 319. 20 minutes. You're a lifesaver. He hung up, smiling. Olivia Grant, bank president. She'll open through the service entrance with security. No public log. As far as anyone knows, we were never there. A spark of hope. Can we trust her? With my reputation, and now with your life. We left cash on the table and headed for the car. As Lang started the engine, I caught my reflection in the mirror, hair wild, face pale, nightgown under a blanket. I looked unhinged. Mrs. Clark, he said, as we slid along the lakeshore road. Whatever's in that box, whatever Tom left you, are you prepared to see this through? Even if it means going against your own daughter? I thought about Sabrina, the girl willing to lock away her mother to get what she wanted. She stopped being my daughter the moment she decided I was an obstacle instead of a person, I said. So yes, I'm prepared. The bank rose ahead, dark and imposing. A single car waited by the service door. Olivia Grant. We were about to open Tom's last secret, the thing that might save me or ruin me. Either way, there was no turning back. I'd lived 34 years afraid, and now they'd found us. If you're reading this, Marion, I'm dead, and Tom is dead. That isn't a coincidence. The evidence Tom took, it's still out there. He said he hid it somewhere on the Vineyard, somewhere only you would find if you had to. You must find it, because they'll come for you next. Your daughter Sabrina doesn't know the whole story. She knows just enough to be dangerous, not enough to stay safe. Someone has been working her for years, pumping her full of the idea that she's protecting her inheritance. She doesn't realize she's working for the men who killed Tom. Trust no one. Find the evidence and for God's sake stay alive. Harold Kincaid. I read the statement 3 times. Tom was killed, I whispered. I believe so, Avery said softly. The diagnosis was real, but the progression looks accelerated. Why now? After all these years? Because someone reopened the old laundering pipeline from 1991, he said. Kincaid's name surfaced, and then Tom Clark, the accountant who vanished with evidence that could bury them. He knew, I said. He knew they were closing in. That's why he left the steel card in the note. He gave you a defensive route. And Sabrina. Her name stuck in my throat. She's working for them unintentionally, but yes. If they push through emergency guardianship, they'll tear this place apart, lift every trellis. Tom's originals will be destroyed, and you? I'll be tucked away in a facility where no one believes me, I finished, where one fall, one dosing error would be enough to silence me. Yes. The diner's normalcy, the hum of lights, the clink of spoon on china, turned surreal. "What's in the box?" I asked. "Don't know yet. My bet is a map, instructions, the starting point to the originals." Avery slid over another folder. "This is Harold and Elaine Kincaid's will. They left you their entire estate, $5.5 million, and a lakeside cabin in the Catskills. Condition, you only receive it after you turn the originals over to the FBI. $5.5 million. Money Kincaid once dirtied, now either the price of silence or the cost of danger. Maybe both." "And this," Avery said, pushing across a photograph. Silver hair, expensive suit, practiced smile. "Recognize him?" I studied the familiar eyes and came up empty. "No, should I?" "Victor Stanton, Kincaid's laundering partner back then. Now the face of a logistics and medical supply empire, spotless on paper, sits on boards, very respectable, and he's been meeting with Sabrina regularly for the past year." Sabrina thought Stanton was a financial advisor, helping her plan. In truth, he'd been feeding her the script about my supposed decline, paving the way for control. The pieces aligned, brutal in their clarity. The 10:31 p.m. calls asking, "Are you alone?" The steady pressure to move me off the Vineyard, Cole's sudden concern for my health. They'd prepped the ground, slow, careful, thorough, to remove me. "How do you know all this?" I asked. Avery hesitated a beat. "Kincaid hired a private investigator before he died. That PI tailed both families. Photos, audio, surveillance reports, all in here. But it's not enough to pin Stanton. The only key is Tom's originals." I stared at the stack. Proof of a betrayal I didn't want to believe. My Sabrina, the child I raised, had been used and had chosen to believe I was incompetent. "We have to get to the box," I said. "Tonight. Empire Trust doesn't open until 9. Then we wait, but not here." I tightened the blanket around my shoulders. "Stanton already knows about the box. Sabrina will tell him. They'll camp the main lobby. I've handled it." Avery dialed. "Olivia, it's Avery. Service entrance, box 319. 20 minutes. He ended the call with a small smile. "Olivia Grant is the bank president. We went to law school together. She'll open the back entrance with security. No public log. No one knows we were ever there." A small heat of hope rose in my chest. Can we trust her? With my life, and now yours. We paid the check and headed for the car. In the rear view, I caught a flicker of myself. Drained face, wild hair, nightgown under a borrowed blanket like a madwoman. "Mrs. Clark," Avery said as we skimmed the dark lake shore. "Whatever's in box 319, whatever Tom left, are you prepared to see this through, even if it means going against your own daughter?" I thought of Sabrina, the girl willing to lock her mother away to get what she wanted. "She stopped being my daughter the moment she decided I was an obstacle instead of a person," I said. "Yes, I'm prepared." The bank rose out of the quiet street, dark and imposing. A single car idled by the service door. Olivia Grant, right on time. We were about to open Tom's final secret, and whatever was inside would either save me or destroy me. Either way, there was no going back. Olivia Grant unlocked the service entrance. "Security is on duty, but they'll stay in the monitoring room. No public access log gets created. As far as the official record is concerned, you were never here." We followed her through dim corridors to the vault. Olivia needed 2 keys and a code to release the door. Inside, rows of safe deposit boxes lined the walls. Boxma 319 sat in the middle row. "I'll need the steel card and your ID," Olivia said. I handed over the etched steel card Tom had left me. "I don't have my ID. It's at home." Avery showed Olivia an investigator's ID photo. "Good enough for tonight," Olivia nodded. "But Mrs. Clark, formally, this access never happened. Understood?" Understood. 2 keys turned in tandem. The drawer slid free with a soft, metallic thrum. It was larger than I'd expected. "I'll give you 2 some privacy," Olivia said, stepping out. Avery and I stood over the box. This was it. Tom's last message to me. I lifted the lid. Inside were 3 items: an unlabeled 256 GB SSD, a handwritten letter from Tom, and a small plum-colored leather notebook. My fingers shook as I opened the letter. Tom's letter. "My dear Marion, if you're reading this, I'm gone and you're in danger. I'm sorry. Every choice I made to protect you and Sabrina." In 1991, I discovered that my direct boss, Harold Kincaid, was laundering money for a network coordinated by Victor Stanton. I had enough evidence to bring them both down. I should have gone to the police. But I thought about you, about little Sabrina, about our cramped apartment and the vineyard by the lake you loved through the car window. I traded silence for that land. Kincaid agreed because he had no choice. Stanton never knew. The SSD contains financial records, recordings, email chains, enough to ruin Stanton and everyone tied to him. The plum notebook is my own log. The originals are buried on our land. The SSD is only a copy, but enough to get the FBI's attention. The notebook will point them to the exact spot. What comes next will hurt. 10 years ago, Sabrina found some old papers in the barn. I told her part of the truth, that I'd been too close to criminals, that this land was bought with my silence. I thought I was protecting her. Instead, I handed her a blade to use against us both. If someone is using Sabrina to get to you, it's because she's vulnerable. She believes her inheritance is dirty. It won't take much to convince her that protecting herself means betraying you. Do not go to the local police. Stanton has connections everywhere. Go straight to the FBI, New York field office. Ask for Special Agent Naomi Chen. Kincaid vetted her before he died. The originals are under the old vine at the center trellis. Dig 6 feet right at the post. You'll find a galvanized steel tube. Everything is inside. You are stronger than you think, smarter than anyone, including me, ever gave you credit for. You will survive this. I know it. Forgive me if you can. Forever yours, Tom. I read it twice. Tom had planted the seed of doubt and shame that grew into betrayal. He'd meant to shield our daughter, and instead damaged her. "Mrs. Clark," Avery said gently, "we have to go. We can't stay here all night." I nodded and picked up the SSD. "The originals at the Vineyard. We need—" Avery's phone buzzed in my hand. A blocked number text. "Mrs. Clark, we need to talk. This is Victor Stanton. Your daughter just gave me this number. I know you're at Empire Trust. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." "He's watching the bank," I whispered. "He knows we're here." Avery dialed. "Olivia, we need the loading dock exit, now." "Run," Avery said. We sprinted. Olivia was waiting, her BMW idling. "Get in." We shot out of the service lot. "That SUV is Sabrina's," I said, as dark headlights fell in behind us. "My daughter." The SUV closed the gap. In the passenger seat sat a silver-haired man in a perfect suit, Victor Stanton. "Marion," his voice came through my phone a second time, smooth and cold. "You're making a mistake. Pull over. Let's talk." Then another text arrived, with an attachment. A photo. Cole stood in my kitchen, a lighter held to the edge of the 1991 35mm print. "Your daughter is at your house right now, Marion, cleaning up, making sure nothing's left. Everything will be ash. Unless you pull over and talk to me now. Victor Stanton." "He's burning my house," I said, my voice cracking. "He's burning my memories." Avery went pale. "That's a felony. Criminal mischief. Arson." "He doesn't care," I snapped. "He's killed before. One more law won't stop him. We were merging onto the lakeside highway, heading for escape. But escape to where? We need the FBI, New York field office, Avery said. Now, it's the only safe road. Rochester is over an hour away. My house will be ash by the time we get there. Everything Tom left. The originals buried under the old vine. The last text. Last chance, Marion. Pull over. Save your house. Save your daughter from the worst mistake of her life. You have 30 seconds. I pictured Cole setting rooms alight. I pictured Sabrina driving behind us with a killer in her passenger seat. And I thought of Tom's letter. Olivia, I said, steady now. Turn around. We're going back to the Vineyard. Marion, that's reckless, Avery protested. I know, but he's wrong about me. He thinks I'm a frightened old woman who'll do anything to keep a house. He has no idea who he's dealing with. Who is he dealing with? I smiled, not kindly. A woman who's run a vineyard for years, who drives a UTV, diagnoses vine rot, pounds trellis posts in a night wind, survives Finger Lake's winters, buries her husband, and starts again. He thinks age makes me weak. He's about to learn the opposite. Olivia tightened her grip on the wheel. All right, let's end this. She swung us back toward Keuka. We passed through the gate at 2:35 a.m. Smoke poured from an upstairs window. Cole was torching room by room. Olivia slid the BMW tight to the tool shed. Another SUV slid in 30 seconds later. They'll head for the vines, I said. Stanton won't stop until he has the originals. Then we have to get there first, Avery said. Inside the shed, next to the UTV, was a steel shovel. 10 minutes later, I drove the UTV into the vineyard, lights off. Avery rode shotgun, gripping the shovel. Olivia stayed behind to call 911, reporting fire and a break-in. I knew every row by heart. The old vine sat at the center trellis. I braked and jumped down. Avery started to dig. They know we're here, Avery said, breathing hard. Keep going. We're close. The SUV tore across the field, fishtailed, and stopped 20 yards away. Sabrina jumped out. Mom, stop! I kept digging. I understand now. Stanton's been using you. Tom made an impossible choice in 1991 to keep us alive, and you'd rather lock me away than face the truth. The truth is he was a criminal, Sabrina snapped. He traded silence for land. Everything is dirty. He shielded us, I said, from men who would have killed us. He paid for it for the rest of his life. Stanton stepped out, a curl at his lip. Marion, you've given us a lively chase, but this is over. You won't dig it out in time. And even if you do, to what end? Hand over proof that ruins Tom's name and crushes your daughter's share? For what? Revenge? Justice, I said. 4 feet. The shovel rang on metal. Stanton's smile died. Sabrina, stop her. Sabrina hesitated. I saw my child again in that split second. Honey, I said softly, still digging. Tom left another letter. In box number 319. Read it before you do anything, please. There is no letter, Stanton ground out. She's lying. Marion, out of the hole. He drew a gun and leveled it at me. Anyone who fires just confessed, Avery said, touching the button cam on his lapel. Live video, cloud backup, pull that trigger and we have murder evidence right now. He stalled. You won't make it, I said. My hands closed on a galvanized tube and levered it free. Because I texted Special Agent Naomi Chen 20 minutes ago. She knows everything. I was lying. Chasteau and color drained from Stanton's face. I hauled the steel tube up and set it on the ground. 3 decades of ledgers, flows, your calls with Kincaid, all of it. We burn it before they arrive, Stanton said, raising the gun. Hand it over. No. I stood, cradling the tube. You're going to prison, Mr. Stanton. Attempted murder, money laundering, threats, and nothing you do tonight changes that. Mom! Sabrina's voice broke. Please, he'll shoot. Then he'll shoot me, I said, calm. But I'm not yielding, not after what he did to Tom, not after he used you to break me. From a distance, sirens wailed, real this time. Sweetheart, I said, your father loved you. Everything he did was to keep you safe. Don't let this man make you his accomplice. Don't let him turn you into something you can't come back from." Sabrina looked at me, looked at Stanton, looked at the gun, then she stepped between us, blocking the barrel. "No," Sabrina said, steady now. "Put the gun down, Victor. Move! Don't be stupid!" "No, it ends here. The police are coming. You're out of time, and I still get to choose who I am." Victor Stanton's face twisted with rage. Pathetic. A shot cracked the still night between the rows, but it wasn't Stanton's. Sheriff Miguel Ortiz stepped out from behind the SUV with 3 deputies, guns leveled at Stanton. "Drop the weapon, now." Stanton froze, the muzzle still aimed at Sabrina's back. Then, slowly, he lowered it and let it fall to the ground. Ortiz kicked the gun away and cuffed Stanton in one smooth motion. "Victor Stanton, you're under arrest for attempted murder, criminal threats, and conspiracy to commit arson. You have the right to remain silent." The Miranda faded into the dark. I collapsed to my knees. The galvanized tube clutched against my chest. My hands shook so hard I could barely hold on. Sabrina dropped beside me, her face wet. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I looked at her, really looked, and saw the child I raised feeling her way back through years of manipulation, fear, and shame. "You chose right," I whispered. "At the last second, you chose right. That's what matters." Avery helped me to my feet as red and blue lights flooded the rows. Fire trucks, county patrol, and finally a black sedan with a federal hush to it. A woman in her 40s stepped out, her badge catching the light. "Special Agent Naomi Chen, FBI, New York Field Office," she said, approaching. "I received a very interesting call about an hour ago from Avery Lang, and a second alert through Empire Trust from Olivia Grant. Marion Clark may need federal assistance." Her gaze settled on the steel tube in my arms. "I'm guessing that's evidence." I handed it over, feeling the weight of 34 years lift off my shoulders. "Everything you need: ledgers, money flows, recordings, a laundering network, and 3 deaths. Harold and Elaine Kincaid, and my husband, Tom Clark." Naomi took the tube carefully. "We've been on Stanton's system for 2 years. This is exactly the kind of thing that takes down the whole network." She glanced at Stanton, now in the back of a patrol car. "Well done, Mrs. Clark." From the porch, Cole Harrington was led out in cuffs, his expensive coat smudged with ash. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Fire crews doused the upstairs rooms. The damage was heavy, but the house would live. It could be repaired. Not everything could. I turned back to Sabrina, who stood apart, stunned by the field of flashing lights. "There's a letter," I said. "In box number 319 at Empire Trust, Rochester. Your father wrote it 10 years ago. Read it. It explains everything. The reason. What he wanted for you." "I don't deserve—" "Just read it," I cut in. "Then decide who you want to be. But Sabrina," I held her gaze, "if you choose to be what Stanton tried to mold you into, if you choose greed and manipulation over truth and family, don't come back to this vineyard. I will rebuild without you. And if I choose better?" I thought of forgiveness, family, second chances, of how Tom made a terrible choice to shield us and the price it exacted for decades. "Then we'll talk," I said at last, "about what comes next. But trust is gone, Sabrina. You'll have to earn it." She nodded, tears slipping free. "I understand." Agent Naomi Chen stepped back over. "Mrs. Clark, tomorrow morning, I'll need you at the New York field office to make a formal statement. Can you do that?" "Yes." "Good. And Kincaid was right about you. You're a lot sharper than many people realized." Rebirth under the trellis. As the federal team sealed the scene, I walked to the center trellis. The open pit yawned like a wound. I knelt and pressed my palm to the damp soil, thinking of the man I married, the choices he made, the price we all paid. "I found it, Tom," I whispered into the cold November wind. "I finished what you started. Rest now." The wind whisked through the bare canes, carrying smoke and the promise of dawn. It was over. 3 months later. Nearly 3 months later, I stood in a newly painted bedroom, my hand skimming the primer. Fresh wood, renewal, no more ash. Through the window, the vineyard rose pushed up first buds of spring. The old vine stood at the center, circled by the new earth where we filled the hole. The evidence sat in federal custody, dismantling what Naomi called one of the most sophisticated laundering networks in the Northeast. Victor Stanton waited in county remand, facing 18 counts, including attempted murder. Cole took a plea. He'd serve a few years. He hadn't contacted me. The doorbell rang, pulling me back. I went downstairs slowly, my hips still stiff on cold mornings, a reminder of the night I climbed over the pergola. Sabrina stood on the porch, a bakery box in her arms, her face uncertain. Her 4th visit since that night. "Hi, Mom," she said softly. "I brought coffee cake, the kind Dad liked." I moved aside and opened the door. "Thank you." We sat at the kitchen table. "I read Dad's letter," Sabrina said after a long silence. 50 times, probably. I waited. "He loved me," she said, her voice snagging. "I'd convinced myself it was conditional. Now I understand he traded risk for a better life for us." She looked up, eyes red. "I spent 10 years hating him for not being perfect. Then let that hatred turn me into someone worse." I reached and took her hand. "You stepped between me and a gun. That is not nothing, Sabrina." "I should have seen it sooner. I nearly got you killed." "But you stopped," I said. "You chose." She stood and drifted to the window. "I saw Cole at county yesterday. He asked me to write a letter asking for leniency. Should I?" "Tell her no," Sabrina said. "I told her what she did, helping Stanton burn your house. Can't be forgiven. She still thinks this is sides, loyalty, winners. She doesn't understand this is about right and wrong." The divorce was finalized last week, finally done. I get nothing from Cole and he gets nothing from me. Clean cut. "Mom," she looked at me, the same resolve I once saw in Tom set in her face. "I know you said we could talk about what's next, but I need to say this first. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I haven't earned it. I want to try to be better, to become the person Dad hoped I'd be, the person you raised before I lost my way. And I know that starts with action, not words. So, I'm asking to work at the Vineyard, not as an owner, just labor. Learn, repair, rebuild what I helped break. Cane tying and bud pruning start in 2 weeks," I said slowly. "The north row needs the trellis lines restrung. The north fence the wind knocked down has to go back up. The new drip lines are being pulled. I could use your hands." Hope flashed in her eyes. "I can do it. I'll do all of it." "It's hard work. Your back will ache. Your hands will blister. You'll come home spent every night. And after all that, I still may not trust you. I still may decide this vineyard is mine alone." "I understand." I looked out at the rows again. Keuka lay still in the afternoon light. 6 a.m. Be at the equipment shed, I said. "Bring work gloves. Wear clothes you don't mind ruining." Sabrina's face lit. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. Let's see if you last a week." I smiled when I said it, and she did too. Victory is continuing. Sabrina left. I walked to the center trellis and stopped beneath the old vine. Someone had laid a sprig of dried lavender on the new ring of earth. "Mrs. Clark?" I turned to see Avery Lang coming up the gravel, briefcase in hand. He'd come with updates. "Stanton's last partner took a plea this morning," he said. "Naomi Chen says it's enough to keep him locked up for life." "It's really over, Marion." "Thank you. For everything. You saved yourself." Avery shook his head. "I supplied a car, a few filings, and a button cam. The courage, the calm, the discipline. That was you." "Tom would be proud," I said softly. "Tom would be grateful," Avery corrected. "He left tools. You were the one who used them right." "What do you do now?" he asked. "Run the vineyard," I said. "Fix what's broken. and plant what needs planting. Watch my daughter try to become better. Live. I smiled at him. I'm 64, Avery. I survived my husband's death, my child's betrayal, and a murder plot. I learned I'm stronger than I thought, smarter than I was judged. That's not small. That's a victory worth celebrating every day. You're remarkable, Marion. Remarkable. No, I said. I'm exactly the kind of woman you find at this age. A survivor who learned to use her mind instead of accepting the limits other people set. Will you tell the story? Avery asked. The media's been calling. No, my voice was firm. This isn't content. This is my life, my private pain, my private redemption. My part stays here, on this land, with the people who lived it. Avery drove off. I stayed under the trellis. Tomorrow, Sabrina would show up at 6, and we would begin, slowly, maybe, to rebuild something close to a family. Or not. Either way, I'd be fine. The Vineyard would continue. My phone rang. Sabrina. Hi, honey, I said. Hi, Mom. I just wanted to say I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Working with you. Learning, 6 o'clock. Don't be late. I won't. I love you. We'll talk tomorrow. I hung up. I went inside. Tomorrow I would get up and work the way I have for 40 years. Because that's the real victory. Not a dramatic showdown or a pair of handcuffs, but continuing, refusing to be dismissed, diminished, or destroyed. I locked the door and smiled. The house was quiet again, the regulator clock ticking its steady knock. No more threats, no more secrets. Just a home. Finally, truly a home. Now, if it were you, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to check the video on screen. It'll surprise you.